Hello viewers, wishing you a wonderful day. Today we follow a story filled with compassion and humanity, a journey of Tuan, a man willing to help Tieu Hue during her darkest time. After everything she has been through, the two of them are living peaceful days together, working in the garden. But those calm moments are about to end as the people searching for Tieu Hue are getting closer. Let us follow what happens next. Inside the quiet space of a small wooden house hidden on the mountainside, Tieu Hue slowly opened her eyes and felt a rare sense of peace spreading through her soul after days of running in fear. The soft morning sunlight passed through the window, illuminating tiny dust particles floating in the air, creating a peaceful scene that felt almost unreal. For the first time since the tragedy began, she experienced a deep and restful sleep, free from the nightmares of the forced wedding and the terrifying voices chasing her. She lay still, listening to the birds singing outside and the gentle crackling of firewood from the kitchen where Tuan was quietly preparing a simple but warm breakfast for her. The smell of fresh rice porridge mixed with the scent of the forest awakened her senses, bringing a feeling of safety and protection she had never experienced during the years she lived under her cruel brother's control. When she stepped out of bed and saw Tuan standing by the fire, she felt her heart tighten with emotion. Tears formed in her eyes, not from pain but from gratitude for the man who had given her a peaceful refuge in the middle of chaos. For her, happiness was no longer wealth or luxury, but the simple freedom to breathe, to eat a warm meal, and to be treated with respect. Those ordinary things had become more valuable than anything else. This fragile peace became a healing force, helping her slowly rebuild her broken trust and giving her the strength to face the uncertain future. In the warm light of a new day, Tieu Hue realized that even though life had taken so much from her, in this remote place she had found something priceless, a peaceful heart and a fragile hope for a brighter future. After her body gradually recovered and her mind began to find balance again, Tieu Hue did not want to remain a passive guest in the house of the man who saved her. She took the initiative to ask Tuan to let her share the daily work of the small but lively farm. They began each new day when the mist still covered the distant mountain peaks. Together they stepped into the green garden where fresh vegetables were waiting for their care. Tieu Hue bent down beside the round kohlrabi plants, her hands, once used only for delicate tasks, now slowly adapted to soil and the roughness of farm work. She carefully pulled each vegetable, trimmed the old leaves, and arranged them neatly into a bamboo basket. Every movement carried care and appreciation. Their work unfolded in a quiet but comfortable silence. From time to time Tuan looked at her with encouragement, guiding her on how to hold the tools properly or how to tie bundles of vegetables without damaging them. This simple and close labor strengthened the bond between two lonely souls, making Tieu Hue feel she was no longer a runaway but truly a part of this peaceful land. When the baskets were full, they carried their harvest down the mountain to reach the early market. The journey was difficult with muddy paths and steep slopes, but it was filled with a sense of freedom. Her steps were still slightly unsteady, yet her eyes shone with a new confidence. At the market, she stood beside Tuan, for the first time handing fresh vegetables to customers and receiving small coins earned through honest work. Those were the first earnings of her life, not money gained from sacrifice or control, but from her own effort. Holding those coins, she felt light and proud, realizing she had value and could support herself. This new life, though simple and demanding, brought her a freedom that no wealth could replace. Every afternoon after the market, they sat together under the porch, sorting herbs or simply watching the sunset behind the mountains. In those quiet moments, Tieu Hue understood that happiness was not far away. It existed in every handful of soil she touched, in every vegetable she harvested, and in the silent understanding of the man beside her. Those hard-working but meaningful days helped her erase the shadows of her past, transforming her from a desperate bride into a strong woman full of life, moving forward toward a brighter future. While Tieu Hue was immersed in the rare peaceful moments on the quiet mountainside, far away at the foot of the mountain, a storm of hatred and endless greed was silently gathering, creating a terrifying pressure ready to swallow the fragile freedom she had just found. Her former groom, a man used to controlling everything with money and treating women like objects in his collection, lost all composure when he learned that she had escaped on the very day of the wedding. For a man full of pride and power, her escape was not just a loss, but a humiliation in front of his wives and subordinates. Unable to accept this failure, he immediately ordered his most ruthless men to begin a large-scale search, with the cold command to find her at all costs. The operation spread like dark shadows moving toward surrounding areas. Their first step was to place strict surveillance on the house of her brother, the very man who had sold her and was now trembling in fear of punishment. They interrogated, threatened, and monitored every connection to find even the smallest clue about her location. The presence of these men made the atmosphere suffocating, as they were ready to use violence against anyone who might protect her. Not stopping there, the man spent large amounts of money to hire people familiar with the forest terrain, sending groups to search every path, every cave, and every abandoned place. Wherever they went, fear followed. They questioned villagers and anyone who might have seen a frightened young woman, slowly tightening the circle around her hiding place. The search became a calculated operation, moving through streams and hills to uncover her location. Each step they took brought danger closer to Tieu Hue, as they gathered information from every possible source. Their cunning and financial power turned the entire mountain region into a trap with no escape, while Tieu Hue remained unaware that behind her peaceful life, the footsteps of danger were approaching. The circle was no longer distant. It had already appeared in the suspicious eyes of strangers around the foot of the mountain, signaling that the storm was about to reach her quiet refuge. Amid the worries of the outside world, inside the small wooden house on the mountainside, Tieu Hue was living through the most peaceful days she had ever known. Every morning before the sunlight broke through the mist, she and Tuan began their daily routines in a quiet understanding. They worked together in the kitchen. She lit the fire while he prepared the ingredients. Their coordination felt natural, as if it had existed for a long time, even though they had only recently met. Tuan always cared for her in a quiet and thoughtful way. He never forced her to talk about her painful past or pushed her to face memories she was not ready to confront. Instead, he created a safe space where she no longer felt like an object but a person who was respected and protected. His kindness slowly broke down the walls in her heart, allowing new and gentle emotions to grow. Each afternoon when they sat under the porch drinking tea, she felt her heart become lighter as she looked into his strong yet warm eyes. She realized she had never felt this respected or happy during the years she lived under her brother's control. Their feelings grew naturally through simple meals, small conversations, and shared work in the garden. Tieu Hue began to dream of a future where she would no longer have to run, where she could stand beside him and build a real home together. She felt a transformation within herself, from a girl living in fear to a woman full of life and hope. Her smile no longer carried sadness but shone brightly under the light of freedom and new love. For her, Tuan was not only the man who saved her life, but also the one who restored her faith in kindness and sincerity. He taught her how to value herself and find joy in simple moments. Every evening when she worked quietly by the lamp while he read or repaired things, she felt a deep sense of peace she had never known before. Their connection did not rely on grand promises but on small gestures of care, a glance, a touch, a shared silence. She understood that she had found a true place to belong. Their love was like a wild flower blooming quietly in the forest, simple yet strong. With each passing day she felt more connected to the house and the man beside her. She now saw this place as her true home, a reward for the courage she showed in escaping a cruel fate and choosing her own freedom. As the feelings between two lonely souls were blooming at their most beautiful stage, dark clouds of danger began to gather and cover the peaceful sky of the quiet mountainside. Recently, Tieu Hue often felt uneasy when she noticed unfamiliar figures wandering near the edge of the forest and asking about directions in a suspicious way. Those people did not look like ordinary villagers or forest workers. Their eyes were sharp and predatory, like hunters patiently waiting for the right moment. Her fear became more real when a bold robbery happened in a nearby village, turning the once peaceful atmosphere into something tense and unsettling. Tieu Hue began to lose sleep. Every sound of rustling leaves at night or distant barking dogs was enough to make her heart race with fear that her location had been discovered and those cruel men were getting closer to drag her back into her nightmare. She looked at Tuan with deep concern, not only for her own safety but also for him, fearing that her presence would bring danger to the man who saved her and gave her hope again. The hunters, driven by greed and supported by money, were tightening their search, leaving no clue untouched. It seemed they were slowly tracing her path back to the hidden farm. Every step they took along the narrow paths leading to the mountains felt like a threat to the fragile peace that she and Tuan had built with so much effort. The short-lived peace was now replaced by a heavy tension, signaling that an unavoidable confrontation was approaching, where kindness would have to face the cruelty of greed and hatred. The story pauses at a dramatic moment filled with danger, leaving behind a deep sense of worry about the fate of two hearts standing at the edge of a coming storm. If you feel moved and want to continue following the challenging journey of Tieu Hue and Tuan, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to support us. Thank you for watching and see you in the next chapter.
Vẫn chưa đến mức nguy cấp, tiểu nữ vô tình nghe được thông tin từ chính quyền địa phương có chương trình hỗ trợ cho một khoản tiền nho nhỏ cho những người không có việc làm ổn định. Với hy vọng có thêm chút tiền để trang trải, cô làm đơn đăng ký. Mặc dù không kỳ vọng quá nhiều nhưng vẫn mong có thể giúp được cuộc sống bớt phần nào khó khăn. Vài ngày sau, hai chiến sĩ công an địa phương đến tận nơi để trao khoản tiền hỗ trợ. Trong lần gặp mặt đó, một trong số họ đã để ý nhiều hơn đến hoàn cảnh của tiểu nữ. Tên anh ấy là Trường và ánh mắt anh thể hiện rõ sự quan tâm khi thấy căn nhà tre tạm bợ và hai mẹ con đang ở tại đây. Từ ngày hôm đó, sau giờ làm, Trường thường ghé qua nơi này để thăm hai mẹ con. Ban đầu chỉ là giúp cô những việc đơn giản như sửa lại căn nhà tạm bợ, rồi dần dần là phụ thêm việc ngoài vườn, cắt rau phụ cô mang đi bán. Anh cũng hay mang theo đồ ăn, khi thì gói thịt, khi thì vài món cần thiết, giúp bữa cơm của hai mẹ con không còn chỉ có rau muống. Những việc đó diễn ra tự nhiên, không thèm theo điều kiện nào. Khi biết đứa bé bị sốt, tình trạng không cải thiện, Trường trực tiếp đưa hai mẹ con đến cơ sở y tế, lo toàn bộ viện phí và ở lại cho đến khi tình hình của đứa bé ổn hơn. Nhờ đó đứa bé được chữa trị kịp thời và dần dần hồi phục. Nhờ đó mà cô không cần phải nghĩ đến chuyện trả con cho nhà chồng cũ nữa.